Hello friends, welcome back to a new video. So friends, today in this video we are going to discuss with you the concept of rule of law, which is one of the important concept or topic of the subject administrative law. So today we will see all the important concept in it, covers like what is the meaning of rule of law, what is its application, and what is the views of the jurists upon the topic of rule of law, and what are its mainly three contents. So first of all, before going further, friends, if you are new viewer on my channel, please don't forget to subscribe it so that you will get all the new upcoming updates of videos on my channel. So first of all, we see what are the meaning of rule of law. The term rule of law means the principle of legality, which refers to a government based on the principles of law and not of the man. In this sense, the concept of the rule of law is opposed to the arbitrary powers. Rule of law is one of the basic principles of the English Constitution, and this doctrine has been enshrined in the Constitution of USA and in the Constitution of India as well. So that's the reason we are discussing this topic here. The entire basis of administrative law is the concept of rule of law. Sir Edward Coke is said to be the originator of this principle. This is one of the important topic which you might have to be considered in mind if this question come in your exam. This is a very important concept for writing it in your answers, that the Sir Edward Coke is said to be the originator of the term or the principle of rule of law. In a battle against the king, he succeeded in maintaining that the king must be under the God and the law, and thus maintain the supremacy of law against the executive. Dicey, Professor Dicey, evolved that the concept of rule of law while he was delivering lectures to the law students in Oxford University, England. Dicey developed this doctrine of rule of law, and was Sir Edward Coke has stated, he has developed and made some opposite increments in it as to what should be improved in her definitions. And according to Dicey, rule of law is a fundamental principle of English Constitution and has three distinct meanings. And that's we are seeing what are the three distinct meaning according to the definition of Professor Dicey. Dicey has stated the three different meanings, like first is supremacy of law. Like I am saying, three components which must be covered in the rule of law according to Professor Dicey is, the first one is supremacy of law, second one is equality before law, and the third is predominance of legal spirit. Now if we see in description these 3 points, then the first one is supremacy of law, and this principle states according to Dicey that the rule of law is the absolute supreme or predominant as opposed to the influence of arbitrary powers or wide discretionary powers. It also excludes the existence of arbitrariness or protecting power to even wide discretionary powers authority on the part of the government. A man may be punished for a breach of law. If you see, a man may be punished for breach of law but can be punished for nothing else. If you committed a breach, you will be punished. Otherwise, this law or any rule will not be applicable for you. This is a general example. So according to Dicey, it is the central and most characteristic feature of common law. Second, equality before law. This is one of the fundamental principles we know. We have already read this in Indian Constitution, but the main only principle here is to state that what the Dicey has referred this in his definition. So the second important point is equality before law. So explaining the second principle of rule of law, the Dicey says that there must be equality before the law or equal subjection of all classes to the ordinary law of the land administered by the ordinary law of the courts. And according to him, he says that in England, all persons were subject to one and the same law, and there was no special tribunals or special courts for officers of the government and other authorities, unlike in India. And according to him, courts are supreme throughout the state. Third main element is of the rule of law, according to Dicey, is the predominance of legal spirit, or we can also say it like a judge-made constitution. Dicey says that in England, the rights are a result of a judicial decisions of the courts rather than from being enshrined in the constitution. In many countries, rights are guaranteed by a written constitution, but in England, it is not so. These rights are basically the results, because they are not enshrined by the Constitution of India, but in fact, these rights are the results of the judicial decisions, or we can say that the judicial precedents in concrete cases which have actually arisen between the parties. Rights would be secured more adequately if they were enforceable in courts rather than just being written in the constitutional document. Mere incorporation in a written constitution is of no use in the absence of effective remedies of protection and enforcement. This is a very valid point of the jurist Dicey, which says like judge-made constitution. Now we see what are the application of this doctrine of rule of law. So in England, the doctrine of the rule of law was applied in very concrete cases, like if a man is wrongfully arrested by the police, he can file a suit for damages against them, as if the police were a private individual. This is the law of the England. In the case of Vehicles versus Wood, it was held that an action for damages for trespass was maintainable even if the action complained of was taken in pursuance of the order of the minister. It is also to be pertinent to note that the doctrine of rule of law as expounded by Dicey was never fully operative in England. There were and are many exceptions and restrictions to it. Now these are the beneficial important points of the theory of Dicey, but there are some shortcomings also. The shortcomings of Dicey's thesis was that he not only excluded discretionary powers but also insisted that the administrative authorities should not be given wide discretionary powers, as according to him, where there is a discretion, there is a room for arbitrariness. This is a very important point. I want to repeat it again, that where there is a discretion, there is a room for arbitrariness. So we can say that the Dicey failed to distinguish the differences between the arbitrary power and the discretionary power. Though the arbitrary power is inconsistent with the concept of rule of law, and the discretionary power is not, if it is properly exercised. The modern welfare state cannot work properly without exercising its discretionary powers. Now the last important concept of this subject, rule of law, is the modern conception of the rule of law. The modern conception of the rule of law is fairly very wide. According to it, in this regard, Davis states that they have given a 7 principal meanings of the term of rule of law as to what are included in it. Firstly, law and order. Secondly, fixed rules. Third, elimination of discretion. Fourth is due process of law of fairness. Fifth is natural law or observance of the principle of natural justice. And the sixth is preference for judges and ordinary courts of law to execute authorities and administrative tribunals. And the last point is judicial review of administrative action. So this is the basic principles or meaning of the rule of law. In subsequent videos, we will see what is the position of rule of law under the Indian Constitution, because they are basically applied in England law. But what is the position under the Indian law, that we will see in a separate video, because I don't want to become this video is very lengthy. So I hope, actually this is a very also useful, important for examination point of view, and is what is the rule of law, how it is expounded, who has said about its definitions, meanings. So friends, if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe it. If you don't subscribe it, then it will be difficult for you to reach my videos. So let's see other videos, and if you want to see other videos of the administrative law, you can go to the playlist and watch it, and please share it with others. Thanks for watching this video.